The Engine of Vengeance tanked, and we're going to break it down right now.
Shout out to the Powers of X-Men podcast.
What's up, familia? This is Dayspring, here to talk about the Engine of Vengeance HasLab project by Hasbro. We're going to get into all of it. If you were backing this project, you got an email, I guess this morning or last night. I don't know. Last night was Halloween. I was out in the West Village. I was drunk. And I did check my email last night, but I didn't see something after midnight. So I'm assuming it kind of came out throughout the night or early this morning, just saying that the Engine of Vengeance did not meet its funding goals and it will not be going into production. And don't worry, your credit card wasn't charged. But before we get into it, please hit that subscribe button. Listen, I know my camera's a little blurry. There's probably a little echo here, so forgive me. I am still moving from New York down to Miami. I'm going to be here for another week. I really want to get YouTube content out the door, and I don't want to be one of those people who just talks about it, and there's always an excuse for not doing something, you know? So I really just wanted to start doing this YouTube content, so this is the best I can do. But we have a Ghost Rider background, and I love it. So let's get into this. The Engine of Vengeance was announced back on September 16th, which was about a month ago, and that was ahead of PulseCon, which happened, I think, September 30th and October 1st. I was on tour for auctioning stuff, so I really couldn't tune in, you know, all the time for what was going on in PulseCon. I remember I was about to go on stage for a gig when they were doing the Marvel Legends portion of PulseCon, specifically the X-Men figures that were being revealed. And it was literally taking screen grabs and posting. And then Dwight was in a custom-made Strife helmet. I was absolutely crazy about it. One of the things I thought that was really interesting with the Engine of Vengeance is that it felt like a smaller scale HasLab project as compared to the Sentinel, as compared to Galactus. Now, the Sentinel was a really great first start for the HasLab series, right? I mean, it's an army builder. I know people who bought up to like 5 Sentinels. So right out the gate, that was an awesome way to kick this off. Last year with Galactus, I wanted to buy 2 Galactuses, but we were in the middle of the pandemic when it was announced. I wasn't really sure what my work situation was going to look like. And I also wanted to buy a loft in Miami. Here we are like a year plus later, and finally we got to do it. But, you know, I didn't know what my spacing situation was going to be. I didn't know what my funding situation was going to be. All that being said, though, if I could go back in time, I would have bought 2 Galactuses. Now, this is just based off of my mental history, but Galactus did pretty well out the gate. I know we were climbing towards those stretch goals. A lot of us wanted Nova. You know, I know the last few days there we were kind of like all looking and refreshing. We kept seeing the numbers go up and up. In fact, I wonder if those numbers are still available online. Let's see. Okay. Oh, wow. It's still up. All right, so the target goal for Galactus was 14,000. We got 30,000 backers for Galactus. That's wow. Wow. So here were the stretch goal updates. So the tier 1 was for Frankie Ray Nova, which is who everyone wanted, and that was 16,000. And then it was a new Silver Surfer figure, which was unlocked at 17,000. And then we got a Morg figure at 20,000, and then the Head of Doom at 22,000. Wow, I did not know that we got 30,000 backers. 30,811 backers to be exact for Galactus. That blows my mind. And so then the X-Men Legends Marvel's Sentinel was the target was 6,000, and we got over 21,000 backers for that. 21,873 backers to be specific. And obviously we had the unlockable tiers, which were the Master Mold head, and then the battle damaged head, and then the female Prime Sentinel, and then the Tri-Sentinel alternate head. And of course we got a Bastion figure with that. So wow, right out of the gate, those HasLab projects absolutely slapped, man. Everyone was into it. Everyone really wanted them. Again, the Sentinel, I know there was an army builder for a lot. Galactus, I'm actually shocked Galactus outdid the Sentinel. Maybe that was knowledge that I had in the back of my head. Maybe that's stuff that other people talked about in other YouTube channels. But for whatever reason, I remember thinking that the Sentinel was sort of like a slam dunk. I mean, I get it now because the goal was only 6,000. I think Galactus had a goal of 14,000. But Galactus outdid the Sentinel, and that just goes to show you how popular Galactus and the Fantastic Four franchise really is. But also, Sentinel and Galactus, those are really in-demand characters. They're oversized. It makes sense that we would do a HasLab project for it. So yeah, the Engine of Vengeance was announced on September 16th. You know, it's funny. I seem to remember that not many people cared about the price point when it was first announced. And people were like, oh, it's a beautiful car, et cetera, et cetera. But I'm actually looking at the comments now, and some of these comments are hysterical. One of them says, I think the first tier should be a massive price reduction. Like, what the fuck? That is hysterical. Another comment reads, the tier unlocks better be the whole Midnight Suns characters. Well, you got one of them. Any vehicles and weapons they may have, and throw in some major villains too, which we did get some major villains as well. Another comment says, this looks cool, but $350 is laughable. Next one is, they made a huge mistake not announcing any stretch goals up front. The back of Mephisto's head doesn't count. No idea what they were thinking. Another comment reads, $350? Are you kidding? I don't want to actively hope something doesn't reach its goal, but Hasbro needs a wake-up call. One comment reads, excellent. We'll be saving money on this one. Easy pass, to each their own. One more comment says, I showed up late to the live stream and felt truly bad for them. So many were spamming the clown emoji. I've been there when people were pissed, but also seen when fans were hyped. This is true. Fans were very hyped with Galactus and the Sentinel. This time, it was just people mad, LOL. I will say they do gotta get a handle on pricing. So price point was an issue with the Engine of Vengeance. It was why a lot of people from X-Men to Shartimus were sort of pulling out of backing this project. They made really great YouTube videos explaining that. They didn't think the price matched the quality of what you were getting. But it just seems that people got really angry when Madeline Pryor was announced. And that's when people started really backing out of the project. And I don't know, you know, we're big X-Men fans here. We love Madeline Pryor very much. So that just made me really excited. I personally, when they showed off the Engine of Vengeance, I was kind of like iffy about it. You know, I know that Mephisto was coming, but I was like, you know, I do like the Midnight Suns. I do like Mephisto. I really like Robbie Reyes. But I wasn't really ready to back it. I was just like, I guess this is going to be a pass for me. Not because of the price point, but just because I had no interest. That all changed when Madeline Pryor was announced. I was in Tennessee. I was getting DMs. I was at the Country Hall of Fame Museum, and my inbox was just exploding because Madeline had been announced. Listen, I'm gonna say it. I wanted this project because I wanted Madeline Pryor and I wanted Mephisto. But there was a lot of contention online with fans because they really did feel Madeline Pryor was out of place. Now, in fairness, they did say they were going to be doing evil adjacent characters. And during PulseCon, they showed the Madeline Pryor brooch, the Goblin Queen brooch, and they said, what is that? Is that evil apple pie? And then a couple days later, they announced that they were officially doing Madeline Pryor. Now, that's really interesting because Mephisto was announced first. So you would have thought Mephisto would have been the first unlockable tier, followed by Madeline, followed by Damien Hellstorm. And that wasn't the case. Madeline Pryor was actually coming in at 10,000. She was the first unlockable stretch goal. And then you were going to get Damien Hellstorm at 11,000 backers. And then you were going to get Mephisto finally at 12,000 backers. So Mephisto was announced first, but he was the last stretch goal, which seemed kind of weird. And then just a few days ago, they announced Damien Hellstorm. Why did they announce Damien Hellstorm when they were nowhere near their goal? I don't understand. I've talked to some people about it. They said it was because they wanted to have all the cards on the table. Sure, fine. But I don't know. It was a weird Hail Mary for me. I get it. They probably did not see it as such, but it came across as like, look, you're going to get Damien Hellstorm. Flight was Instagramming about it. You know what I mean? It was one of those things that like they knew it wasn't going to happen, and I still felt like it was. I was kind of upset that I was seeing all these wonderful photos of these figures that I do want. But yeah, so the Engine of Vengeance just ran out of mileage. It just didn't make its goal. I have a theory that they probably saw early projections and they knew it was going to make the goal. And it's really sad that it didn't. I mean, I can't believe that we had over 30,000 for Galactus, over 20,000 backers for the Sentinel, and this barely broke 5,000. My God. Now, listen, their target goal was just 9,000, so they knew this wasn't going to have the popularity of sort of the other HasLab projects, right? Because they started with a small target reach for the Sentinel, and it got bigger with Galactus. Here, they kind of brought it back down to 9,000. So Hasbro was aware that they weren't going to do as well as Galactus, right? Because that was an amazing character. Why did they do the Engine of Vengeance, though? That's something I don't really understand. I don't understand the marketing behind that. I don't understand the polling that they probably did or sort of the market research. Yes, it is Ghost Rider's 50th anniversary. There are other venues to celebrate Ghost Rider's 50th anniversary. The HasLab project seemed a little out there. But again, I think this just boiled down to price point. When it comes to model cars, I'm not as versed in that hobby. I do love F1. I have tried to buy F1 models and they are expensive. But, I will say for this one, I was at New York Comic Con and everyone seemed to really loved it IRL. This is the footage I took. I thought the car looked great. For $350 for me seemed fine, but I get it. It didn't resonate with fans, and that's it. That's just where you go with it. So interesting enough, Steve Evans, who is a product design director for Marvel over at Hasbro, took to his Instagram and said, what Marvel HasLab would you like to see and at what price? So Hasbro is very well aware of the conversation. And I want to give credit where credit is due. We've talked about this before. The Hasbro team really does care about Marvel fans. They are fans themselves. They want to get it right. That's why I think the Engine of Vengeance not funding, or at least, how about this? Not that it didn't fund, but it has been such a bomb in the fan community. It is one of those serious misfires for Hasbro. And I really do appreciate that Steve Evans is coming to Instagram and opening up his polling, his questions, and he's asking fans for some feedback. We're going to get into what I think they should do in the future. I want to know your comments once we get there, so make sure to hit the comments there. But let's get into the unlockable tiers, because I am really upset that we're not going to get some of these figures. So obviously Robbie Reyes, who rose to fame in 2014 as the all-new, all-different Ghost Rider, and he gained a lot of notoriety when he was on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., portrayed by Gabrielle Luna. I hope they find a way to release this figure. I know a lot of people are saying that, well, if it's in the HasLab, and they said, this is the only way to get this figure, we're not gonna get them. And Robbie Reyes hasn't had that much time in the Marvel universe, but I hope we do get this figure out. I mean, it is Ghost Rider's 50th anniversary. Let's make sure that you have a Ghost Rider themed wave and you can put Robbie there. Now, the one figure that I have to tell you that I am furious that we're not going to get, and it's probably going to be a 20-minute rant, so I'm very sorry in advance, is Madeline Pryor. Okay, so let's break down the whole thing with Madeline Pryor. So Madeline Pryor was announced a couple of days after PulseCon, and fans just got immediately angry. I mean, this is where we saw some of the videos of people saying, I'm backing out of this project. And I believe it was xmen who said that Madeline Pryor is actually at the top of his most wanted X-Men Marvel Legends list. And the fact that now we can only get her by backing this $350 HasLab project is insulting. And what's more is Madeline has no ties to Ghost Rider, right? And she's not even from hell. She's from limbo. You know what I mean? Listen, that's pulling hairs there. I personally don't mind. I'm a huge Madeline Pryor fan. I get it. They were doing evil adjacent characters. Madeline feels right at home with these contemporaries. I don't have a problem with it. I understand if you're nitpicking a lot. I understand the splitting of the hairs, though. So trust me. It's not any shade, but for me, it did not bother me that Madeline was in here as our favorite Goblin Queen of Limbo. But here's the thing. A lot of people thought that they were exploiting X fans, right? Because X-Men fans were very passionate. We are very invested in our characters. And Madeline Pryor is a character who in recent years has returned to the comics. She was in Zeb Wells' Hellions run. She was killed off in the first arc, and it was sparked an outrage throughout fandom. She has a big crossover coming up called Dark Web with Ben Reilly. All eyes are on Maddie. We love Maddie. And Maddie is one of those characters that people have been asking for years. Now, obviously, if you've been collecting Marvel Legends for, I don't know, how many years at this point, like over 2 decades, you know that there is an issue with characters who are more scandalously dressed and retailers, right? We never thought we would get an Emma Frost in her corset on the shelves of Walmart. So the fact that we got Madeline right now like this was, wow, everything we wanted. But now the only way we can get her is through backing this project. It rubbed a lot of X fans the wrong way. And what's more is her costume wasn't even done correctly, right? She was missing the underboob. And listen, Amelia, we are comic fans. We're nitpicky of our looks. So, that's it. She has no underboob. But I will say I was at New York Comic Con and I got some time with Dwight and we talked about the torso for Madeline Pryor, and he was aware of it. And he said, listen, the way the figure is designed, you can remove the torso and you can make her more comics accurate. But this is the way she was approved. So that unfortunately was the way Marvel approved it. That's the way the figure kind of came down the assembly line. It didn't bug me that much. I was just happy to see Madeline Pryor. But yeah, it's not her Inferno accurate costume. The other thing that I think upset a lot of people, and I think X-Manny said this, was that she had no accessories. And maybe she needed to come with something more than just a skull. I don't really see Madeline holding skulls. I'm not saying there isn't some panel out there where Madeline is holding a skull. I am a huge Madeline Pryor fan. I've loved her since her debut. I followed her through X-Men. I thought she was incredible in X-Men. Nate Gray obviously is one of my favorite characters. If you engage with our Power of X-Men community on Instagram, I love Nate Gray. I love the relationship with Maddie and Nate Gray. I know that's very contentious with a lot of stance, and we don't need to get into it here, but I followed her through the Sisterhood arc, which was terrible, but I was still excited to see her. So I don't, her coming with a skull accessory seems like, oh, what can we give this character? Let's give her a skull. I'm like, okay, sure. You could have given her goblins, right? That is the main thing with Madeline. That is of her namesake. And there was a big part of Inferno, which is what this costume is based off of. The costume also isn't, doesn't have the right wash to it, but it's fine. Listen, I don't want this to be the end of Madeline. I get it. It's going to be a hard sell with retailers. I would just do a Hasbro shop exclusive. I have been saying this so much. I feel that the fact that Dark Phoenix sold out within minutes of going on pre-sale, the David Nakayama retro card Dark Phoenix figure re-release of that 2-pack from True a number of years ago, should be proof enough that a Madeline Pryor figure will sell out instantaneously. And you can even be clever. You can box her with an X-Factor Cyclops. They already did X-Factor Cyclops, so they can just slap on a new paint deco with him or retool it, or just use the same exact mold and throw him in a 2-pack with Maddie. You can make it a 2-pack with X Factor Jean Grey. That is another look for Jean that everyone wants. Or you can do a 3-pack, an Inferno 3-pack with X Factor Jean, Madeline Pryor, and X Factor Cyclops. Boom, right there. I keep saying this over and over again. I do feel that will sell out immediately on Hasbro.com. However they want to do it is what I'm saying. I just think there is a market for a Madeline Pryor figure. The outrage by X fans prove that we want a Madeline Pryor figure. We want this Madeline Pryor figure. I don't think there was much criticism on this figure. In fact, I saw this figure IRL at New York Comic Con. I absolutely loved it. It is a great figure. They nailed it. They hit it out of the ballpark with it. Give us this Madeline Pryor figure. The next stretch goal is Damien Hellstorm, who is the son of Satan, who debuted in Ghost Rider #1 in September 1973. He's a Midnight Suns. He's a defender. I really like this character. He has strong ties to Patsy Walker, aka Hellcat, who's one of my favorite Marvel heroes ever. He was in Chaos War. That's the last time I remember reading an issue with him. But most importantly, he just had a Hulu series called Hellstorm and was played by Tom Austin. Now, I think that was their version of Legion, and it didn't quite land as well. I don't think anyone talked about that series. And Damien was in Marvel Divas. He was the main antagonist there, where he sort of reunited with Patsy. I really enjoyed this character. I said this in a previous video. For $350, and this is one of our stretch goals, he looks like a straight up repaint of Namor, the Namor figure we got a couple years ago. And listen, he clearly isn't a straight up repaint. You know, it's obviously different, but they could have done a little bit more with him. And he just seems like very basic and just slapped on and put together. So again, he was announced a couple of days ago. I don't know why they announced him. I guess, again, it was to put all your cards on the table, which is fine. But at this point, you knew it was going to fund. This wasn't going to move the needle any which way. So why not just focus on dropping Mephisto from 12K to 11K? That would have been a little bit more achievable for me. And again, why didn't they adjust the stretch goals? You know, I will say inflation is really big right now. I'm sure Galactus and the Sentinel would have been much more if they were released in today's world. But I really wish that they would have adjusted, okay, like our target goal is going to be 6,000, right? Like the Sentinel, the target goal was 6,000. Bring the Engine of Vengeance down to 6,000, Madeline at 7, Mephisto at 8. Boom, right there. But anyway, speaking of Mephisto, yeah, Mephisto was the last stretch goal. And I'm really upset about this because I really wanted a Mephisto figure. And I don't believe this is the only way to get a Mephisto figure at all. I mean, Mephisto is a much hyped character now in the MCU. He was trending during WandaVision. There is a rumor going around that Sacha Baron Cohen is going to play him in the MCU. There's no way we're not going to get a Marvel Legends Mephisto sometime in the next 5 to 10 years. You know, I'm throwing it out there. But the other figures, Maddie and Damien, yeah, I'm actually kind of worried about it. I don't think we will get these characters. Damien is very obscure, right? Even with that Hulu series that nobody watched, not many people know who Damien is. And Madeline, though very beloved with X fans, is not a household name, unfortunately. So I'm really sad for those two figures. I hope we do get them in some way, shape, or form. If I were Hasbro, I would release all these figures, you know, as part of a wave. I would do Robbie Reyes with the alternate head. I would do Madeline. I would do a Build-A-Figure Mephisto. And I would do Damien Hellstorm. And I would put in 2 other characters and call it a wave. Maybe it's a retail exclusive wave. Maybe it's a Hasbro exclusive wave. I'm just really upset. So Steve Evans is asking, what do you want out of a HasLab project? What price point? I'm personally not upset with $350. I think that is a fine price point as long as we're getting a really good figure. So what do we want? Well, I have 3 ideas here. My first one would be Fin Fang Foom. I really love this character. I know he was a Build-A-Figure a number of years ago for the Marvel Legends Hulk series back when Hasbro initially took over the license from Toy Biz. I'm sorry I missed out on this figure because years later I really do regret it. He is featured in Next Wave Agents of Hate, and I love that series so much, and that has sparked me wanting to have a Build-A-Figure of him, but he's so expensive on the secondary market, and honestly, it's such an outdated mold that I don't know, I wouldn't pay that much for a Fin Fang Foom, 2007 Build-A-Figure. He looks a little awkward, you know what I mean? But I would love to see him as a HasLab project. I don't know how they would roll that out. I mean, I think after seeing what happened with Engine of Vengeance, I'd be a little nervous if I was a Hasbro marketing team to go to a very obscure character. Again, he is obscure. The second thing I would do is the Quinjet. I think the Avengers have proven to be extremely popular. Throw in a bunch of Avengers figures, right? You can do a Captain America, you can do an Iron Man. They just announced 2 new figures for them, and people were going crazy on the internet for it. Give us another Wanda figure. What is the most popular MCU character right now? You can capitalize off of her. People will be so excited. Give us a Quicksilver in his Avengers outfit. Give us a great She-Hulk figure. You can do it. You can give us an Ant-Man. You can re-release some of these figures, and people would be happy with it. So I would definitely do the Quinjet. But because we are an X-Men channel and because we are X-Men stans, I would do the Blackbird. Hands down, the Blackbird. That would sell immediately. And you can give us some exclusive figures, just like you did with the Sentinel, and we got Bastion. Just because I'm thinking of that era with Bastion, you can give us the Blackbird, you can give us a retooled Wolverine and Cyclops, and then you can throw in characters like Cecilia Reyes. You can throw in Madeline Pryor again there. You can give us really great characters that we just haven't had yet. And I think a lot of X fans will be really happy. You can give us Farrell. You can give us Rachel Summers. The list goes on, and X fans would eat it up. So I'm curious, what do you think of the Engine of Vengeance not making its funding goals? Are you upset about it? Did you initially back it? Again, keep it civil in the comments. We like to have a really good, rigorous conversation. And what do you want to see out of a HasLab project? What price point do you want to see? Is $350 too much, especially considering inflation right now? Let us know your feelings in the comments below, and we'll be back in the future with more videos.